King Artabanes emerged from a lineage known for administrative discipline rather than military expansion. His family held modest provincial authority in northeastern Persia, giving him early familiarity with regional governance. This background shaped his later approach to centralized rule. Guys, can you help me to hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel? And it's my dream. Sorry for interruption, it's humble request. Let's jump into the video. As a teenager, Artabanes was educated in mathematics, language, and resource management by tutors linked to the royal chancery. His academic progress made him a candidate for higher office even before he entered adulthood. His instructors recorded him as efficient, selective, and highly observant. At age 18, he was appointed overseer of agricultural distribution in a sparsely populated district. The region suffered from inconsistent rainfall, forcing him to regulate storage and transport with precision. His success gained attention among court officials searching for reliable administrators. Artabanes demonstrated an ability to manage laborers without relying on unnecessary force. His reports highlighted practical solutions rather than ideological aspirations. This restrained administrative style contributed to his steady promotion. By his mid-20s, he oversaw a trade corridor linking northern Persia to the Caspian routes. Merchants documented his strict but predictable tax assessments. This reliability increased the volume of trade passing through the region. The reigning monarch observed Artabanes' effectiveness and placed him in charge of supervising provincial governors. This was a position typically reserved for seasoned aristocrats. His appointment signaled a shift toward valuing technical competence over hereditary privilege. During this period, Artabanes studied patterns of regional unrest and market fluctuations. He noted that political instability often corresponded with shortages of grain or delayed disbursement of stipends. He began advocating for reforms aimed at stabilizing supply chains. When the throne became vacant due to the previous king's sudden death, internal factions debated succession. Artabanes' reputation for orderliness and strict record-keeping made him an appealing compromise candidate. His rise was not driven by military campaigns, but by administrative credibility. Upon coronation, Artabanes announced a focus on standardizing regional laws. He believed inconsistencies between provinces created inefficiencies that encouraged corruption. His legal reforms required uniform documentation and precise tax categorization. He introduced a structured census to determine accurate population numbers and labor capacity. Administrative scribes were sent throughout the empire to collect data on households, livestock, and cultivated land. These records served as the foundation for new revenue estimates. Artabanes emphasized agricultural diversification to reduce dependency on single crops. He encouraged irrigation expansion in arid regions and implemented incentives for planting barley, millet, and hardy vegetables. His policies sought long-term food stability. Trade regulation became a central component of his reign. He standardized weights and measures to reduce disputes between merchants. This attracted foreign traders who preferred predictable legal environments. The king improved road maintenance along major trade routes, such as the Western Caravansary line. Workers received structured schedules and clear payment terms. This increased travel efficiency for both local and foreign merchants. Artabanes relied heavily on written communication, establishing a network of scribes stationed in regional capitals. Reports were sent weekly to his central administrative office. This system allowed him to monitor conditions across the empire with minimal delay. He introduced annual inspections of provincial treasuries. Inspectors were required to verify accounts using standardized ledgers. These measures reduced embezzlement and increased overall state revenue. The king invested in the development of public granaries, intended to stabilize grain prices during poor harvests. These granaries stored emergency reserves to be distributed at regulated rates. This policy reduced the likelihood of famine-driven unrest. Artabanes expanded the empire's bureaucratic hierarchy by adding specialized roles for irrigation oversight, metal resource evaluation, and livestock management. Each office submitted quarterly reports summarizing output and deficiencies. This structure increased administrative detail within the empire. He strengthened diplomatic relations with neighboring regions by emphasizing predictable trade agreements. His envoys negotiated access to new mineral resources and exchange of skilled workers. These agreements supported his long-term development plans. The king promoted standardized coinage to simplify transactions across diverse markets. He replaced older regional currencies with a unified Persian system. This reduced counterfeiting and improved revenue collection. Artabanes supported educational institutions that trained scribes and accountants. These schools taught arithmetic, record-keeping, and contract interpretation. Their graduates became essential to sustaining his expanding bureaucracy. He commissioned geographic surveys to map the boundaries of agricultural zones, grazing lands, and water sources. These surveys informed his infrastructure planning and clarified taxation responsibilities. The resulting maps became reference materials for provincial officials. The king prioritized stability over territorial expansion. He avoided large-scale warfare and focused on internal cohesion through effective governance. His policies created a structured environment that benefited administrators and merchants. Artabanes established predictable legal penalties for tax evasion and contract violations. The consistency reduced legal disputes and increased trust in state institutions. His reforms strengthened the authority of provincial judges. He ordered the construction of administrative complexes in major cities. These sites housed record archives, meeting halls, and offices for provincial officials. The complexes symbolized the central role of bureaucracy in his reign. Artabanes encouraged artisans to produce standardized tools and equipment for farming and construction. This improved efficiency and reduced variability in production quality. His policies contributed to greater uniformity throughout the empire. He adopted a cautious approach to the nobility. Rather than challenging their status, he integrated them into administrative roles, requiring accountability. This reduced factional conflict and aligned aristocratic interests with state priorities. The king relied on a council of advisors specializing in agriculture, finance, and foreign trade. Their recommendations shaped many of his reforms. His decision-making process emphasized analysis rather than personal preference. He established a permanent archive to store legal records, tax documents, and census data. Scribes organized these materials into categorized collections. This archive became one of the most detailed bureaucratic repositories in the region. Artabanes initiated a program to improve water management in drought-prone regions. His engineers constructed canals and inspected existing irrigation systems. These efforts supported agricultural reliability. He supported regulated mining operations in mountainous areas. Miners were required to document production quantities and send monthly summaries to the central treasury. The transparency increased mineral revenue. Artabanes maintained strict oversight of military expenditures. He standardized equipment distribution and required detailed records of weapon maintenance. His focus was administrative rather than expansionist. The king instructed provincial governors to submit annual public works proposals. These proposals included budgets, labor requirements, and timelines. His review process ensured that state resources were allocated efficiently. Artabanes emphasized population stability by monitoring migration between provinces. He required officials to record relocations and evaluate labor shortages or surpluses. This system allowed adjustments to taxation and resource distribution. He maintained firm boundaries between administrative and religious institutions. He respected traditional temples but required them to document their holdings. This provided clarity in land disputes. The king's reign became associated with order, predictability, and consistent documentation. His governance strengthened the economic foundation of Persia and established long-term administrative structures. His policies shaped regional expectations of centralized rule. The Iron Scorpion was developed during the middle period of King Artabanes' reign. Its creation reflected his preference for structured punitive systems rather than improvisational punishments. Records from the royal workshop indicate that the project was assigned to metalworkers with prior experience in bronze casting. The device was shaped to resemble a scorpion with segmented body plates, curved legs, and a raised tail. Artisans used a combination of bronze sheets and cast components to achieve the structure. The overall design served both symbolic and functional purposes. Bronze was chosen because it conducted heat evenly and allowed for precise molding. The alloy's durability enabled repeated use without rapid deterioration. Workshop notes show careful measurements taken to ensure uniform thickness across the structure. The body of the Iron Scorpion functioned as an enclosed chamber. Metalworkers created a hollow interior large enough for a single occupant. Ventilation holes were intentionally minimal to restrict airflow once the device was sealed. The exterior plates were attached using metal rivets that could withstand high temperatures. Artisans monitored each joint to prevent warping during heating cycles. This attention to detail ensured operational consistency. The tail was constructed separately before being affixed to the central chamber. It contained a fixed bronze spike positioned to align with the occupant's chest. The spike was not retractable, indicating that the mechanism relied on body placement rather than moving components. The legs of the structure served as stabilizing supports. They were anchored into a stone base to prevent shifting during heating. This ensured that the device maintained structural integrity under extreme temperatures. Heating was achieved through a ring of fire pits arranged around the scorpion's base. Workers fed the pits with charcoal and hardwood, which produced controlled and sustained heat. The bronze surface reached temperatures sufficient to affect the occupant within minutes. The device required a coordinated team to operate. Metal workers monitored the heating process, while guards handled containment procedures. This division of roles reduced operational errors and maintained consistency across uses. Administrative records show that the Iron Scorpion was reserved for high-level offenses. These offenses typically related to treason, unauthorized military actions, or large-scale economic manipulation. The device was not used for routine criminal activity. The king issued strict guidelines governing the selection of cases eligible for this punishment. Provincial officials were required to submit detailed reports outlining evidence before a sentence could be approved. This ensured alignment between legal standards and punitive procedures. Once approval was granted, the condemned individual was transported to the royal enforcement site. The site contained a designated area equipped for the Iron Scorpion's operation. It also housed documentation offices for recording each procedure. The interior of the device was cleaned and inspected before use. Workers checked for structural deformities caused by previous heating sessions. Any signs of damage required repairs before the next operation could proceed. Occupants were placed inside through a hinged opening on the scorpion's back. The hinge featured reinforced bronze brackets designed to withstand expansion. Once sealed, the chamber allowed limited movement. The placement of the occupant was standardized to ensure alignment with the internal spike. Guards followed a procedural checklist to verify posture and positioning. This ensured uniformity across operations. The sealed chamber created an environment with restricted airflow. As the device heated, bronze expanded gradually and conducted heat through the chamber walls. This produced predictable internal conditions, noted in royal engineering logs. Heat distribution was monitored through temperature indicators placed around the exterior. These indicators consisted of heat-reactive clay markers that changed color when specific thresholds were reached. Workers were trained to interpret these markers accurately. Witness protocols were part of the administrative process. High-ranking officials were required to attend certain cases to verify that legal procedures were followed correctly. Their attendance served as documentation rather than spectacle. Scribes recorded the start time, temperature levels, and final confirmation of sentence completion. These records were stored in the central archive for bureaucratic consistency. The archive retains references to multiple operations conducted during Artabanes' rule. The king viewed the Iron Scorpion as a component of state discipline rather than a symbol of personal cruelty. His administrative focus emphasized deterrence and legal standardization. The device represented an extension of his broader system of controlled governance. The Iron Scorpion's design aligned with regional symbolism. The scorpion held associations with defense, retaliation, and territorial guardianship in Persian culture. The device leveraged this symbolism to reinforce messages of state authority. Artabanes' legal advisors documented the Iron Scorpion as a final-level punishment. Lower levels included fines, labor penalties, and controlled exile. This stratified approach reflected a hierarchical justice system based on offense severity. Metalworkers performed routine maintenance on the device. After each use, they examined rivets, joints, and plates for structural fatigue. If repairs were necessary, artisans used bronze welding techniques to restore integrity. The heating pits required periodic cleaning to remove ash buildup. Workers maintained airflow channels to ensure stable combustion. These maintenance tasks allowed consistent heating cycles during operations. The royal treasury allocated specific resources for the Iron Scorpion's upkeep. Bronze, charcoal, and replacement components were listed in procurement ledgers. The device was treated as a long-term state asset rather than a disposable instrument. Provincial officials sometimes sent representatives to observe an operating procedure. These observations served educational purposes for regional governance. The goal was to maintain uniform legal enforcement across the empire. The Iron Scorpion was placed in a secured section of the enforcement grounds. Guards patrolled the perimeter to prevent unauthorized access. This ensured control over the device and maintained the formal nature of each procedure. Royal engineers periodically reviewed the design for potential improvements. Their reports included assessments of heating consistency, structural endurance, and operator efficiency. These evaluations were part of the king's administrative culture of continuous oversight. The Iron Scorpion's existence influenced behavior within the administrative ranks. High officials became more cautious in resource management, taxation, and communication. The device reinforced expectations of accountability. The bureaucratic system surrounding the Iron Scorpion reflected Artabanes' broader approach to governance. It combined technical oversight, structured procedures, and detailed documentation. This approach shaped its implementation throughout his reign. Over time, the Iron Scorpion became recognized as a uniquely Persian punitive structure. Its design distinguished it from other regional devices used in neighboring states. These distinctions were noted by foreign observers who recorded its appearance in diplomatic reports. The device's operation gradually became standardized across all recorded cases. Each step, from preparation to final verification, followed an established protocol. This standardization aligned with Artabanes' preference for predictable administrative outcomes. The Iron Scorpion represented a convergence of engineering, symbolism, and legal governance within Persian statecraft. Its construction and use reflected the king's emphasis on structured discipline. Its existence became a defining feature of his middle reign. In the later years of Artabanes' reign, internal reports began documenting rising dissatisfaction among provincial administrators. Many officials believed the severity of the Iron Scorpion introduced excessive rigidity into the justice system. They argued that such penalties limited their capacity to negotiate solutions to local disputes. Merchants expressed concern that the device created an atmosphere of heightened caution. Some traders delayed regional expansion due to fear of administrative misinterpretation. This led to slower commercial growth in several corridors previously marked by steady increase. Foreign envoys recorded unease regarding the king's most severe punitive law. While diplomatic relationships remained functional, neighboring regions noted that Artabanes' governance had shifted toward strict penal enforcement. These observations affected long-term treaty negotiations. Within the army, officers viewed the device as a reminder of the king's expectation for precise obedience. Over time, this discouraged initiative among mid-level commanders. Military performance became more procedural and less adaptive during minor frontier incidents. Provincial nobles observed the growing tension between bureaucratic discipline and local autonomy. Some families believed the Iron Scorpion symbolized over-centralization. Their correspondence indicates concern that the king undervalued traditional consultative practices. Scribes in the Central Archive noted a significant increase in legal appeals during the final phase of Artabanes' rule. Many petitions sought recalibration of penalties or reconsideration of evidence. This created administrative backlog and slowed the processing of routine governance. The king responded by reinforcing existing procedures rather than adjusting policies. He required additional verification steps before cases reached the capital, which further delayed legal throughput. This response intensified frustrations among regional officials. Artabanes' advisory council became divided over the long-term sustainability of extreme punitive measures. Some members argued for proportional adjustments to maintain administrative balance. Others supported existing policies for their deterrent effect. Record-keeping during this period shows a gradual decline in tax compliance. Populations in certain provinces grew hesitant to report disputes or financial discrepancies for fear of escalation. Underreporting created inconsistencies in revenue projections. Infrastructure projects also slowed due to hesitancy among local leaders. Governors became cautious about allocating resources without exhaustive consultation with the capital. This cautious atmosphere reduced efficiency in public works. The presence of the Iron Scorpion influenced recruitment challenges in the bureaucratic schools. Potential scribes feared involvement in legal processes that carried severe consequences. Enrollment figures declined modestly but steadily. Artabanes' insistence on procedural uniformity eventually restricted his own administrative flexibility. When regional officials proposed alternative conflict resolution models, the king dismissed them in favor of standardized enforcement. This limited innovation within the governance system. Foreign observers noticed growing administrative strain and interpreted it as a sign of internal imbalance. These assessments influenced their diplomatic posture and reduced willingness to commit to long-term agreements. External confidence in Persian stability weakened. In the final years of his rule, Artabanes faced organized opposition from a coalition of provincial families. Their concerns focused on legal proportionality, administrative congestion, and declining economic momentum. They sought reductions in centralized oversight. The king attempted to address the discontent by issuing updated procedural guidelines. However, the changes were minor and did not significantly alter the legal structure built around the Iron Scorpion. Dissatisfaction continued to rise. As administrative friction increased, provincial leaders withheld cooperation with certain royal directives. They delayed tax shipments, slowed communication, and avoided participation in centralized initiatives. This passive resistance weakened state cohesion. Artabanes' authority deteriorated as more officials joined the group advocating systemic reform. Their collective correspondence indicates that they viewed the king's punitive framework as incompatible with evolving administrative needs. Regional support for the monarchy eroded. The Iron Scorpion became the central symbol of the debate over governance practices. Critics argued that its existence reflected inflexible central control. Supporters within the capital remained committed to deterrence but lacked widespread backing. The decline of the king's influence emerged from the administrative environment he had created. His emphasis on strict procedure ultimately reduced the adaptability needed for long-term stability. The system he shaped became resistant to recalibration.